Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG. In this video, I'm taking a second look at the Zion Builder. The initial feedback on the Zion Builder was that the user interface was not as easy to use as it could be, and there seemed to be a number of bugs. The development team has just completed a major update, and so I wanted to take a second look to see where it stood now. In the first video, I created the single and archive templates for the book's custom post type. In this video, I'm going to continue working with the theme builder, but this time I will create a header, a footer, and a post archive for the home page. I'll also take a quick look at the new conditional display options that were added in version 3, and then I'll conclude by sharing my assessment and my opinions on where the Zion Builder stands today. So this is the testing site I have. You can see there are a lot of posts, and I just want to create something simple on the home page, just a 3-column grid. I'm not worried about styling it a lot, I want to just see how the builder works. Here's the book archive that we created in the last video, and this is the book single that we created in the last video. So let's go into the back end, and in plugins I have the Zion Builder Free and Pro version 3, so these are the new updated versions. And for themes, I have the Cadence theme. Under settings for reading, this is where you set how many articles or posts you want to show in your archive. So I've set that for 9. Since it's 3 columns, that'll give us 3 equal columns of posts. If you're interested in the settings of the Zion Builder, there are quite a few settings here, and I covered those in the first video, so I'm not going to go over them again. One thing to point out though is if you were going to create a site from scratch using Zion Builder, you'd want to start and set your font options and your color palette before going into the builder and creating your template so you had consistent colors and your fonts were available. I'm not going to do that here, but I just wanted to point that out. So if we go into the theme builder, we see this is the default template. It's using the theme header from the Cadence theme and the theme body, except for the book archive and the book single have an override template for the body, which that's what we created in the last video. So I'm going to start out and create a header. So you can click here or here, I guess. And then I'm going to save that. It's kind of a problem. You're not sure when you need to click this save because there's no indicator that it's not saved. So let's do it to be careful. And that takes us into the Zion Builder. And again, this is like an overlay. You exit it over here. This is where you save. You can exit out to particular pages or get information here. This is where the page options are. We'll come back to that in just a second. And then here's where you can switch between different device sizes. And if we look at the page options, there's an option for, here's the page title, the status, the layout, which you have default Zion Builder blank canvas or full width. So default's going to use the theme unless we override it. And you can add some custom CSS or JavaScript that'll just apply to this template. So if you're using a template just in a few circumstances for a few things, then you could add your custom code here and it wouldn't be loaded on the entire site. But anyway, let's go back to the page options because this is one I'm interested in, which is the current page query. So this tells it what it's going to do for the preview in the builder. This will be more important when we're doing the post archive to make sure it's assigned to the right thing. All right, then here's the history, here's the library, and here's the structure view. So I'm going to close this. And then over here, there's a tree view, a section view, and a wireframe. Okay, so let's start and let's add a section. And the advantage of a section is that you can set it boxed, and that means that, you know, like with Cadence, you have your header content kind of in the middle part here, and Cadence has a content of 1290 inner content. So I'm going to set that there. Then inside the header, I'm going to add 2 columns. Let's click out of there. So one thing that's changed that's good is in the previous version, there were so many buttons all over the place in the corners of everything that it was difficult to see where the right place to click was. And so by kind of cleaning up these buttons for adding elements and the tree view and section view, they've really solved that problem, and I think they did a good job of that. And in the tree view, another thing is you can switch here between the different elements, and it goes right to that in the screen and in the editor. So that's something that's also new or updated, and they've done a good job on that as well. That was another problem, that when you clicked on it, it didn't open this right away. So these are columns, but here you have section, a column, a sidebar, and a container. Okay, and I guess the difference between a container and columns is that the container doesn't have flex enabled by default. But here's the list of items. It's a little bit hard to see what they all are. And most builders have a sidebar with the list of the Beaver Builder calls them modules, Elementor calls them widgets, other people call them elements. So it's kind of hard to see what they all are, and if you're looking for them and you're not sure what's there, then that could be a little confusing. You know, the solution is usually just click here and type what you want. And another thing that I wanted to show you is, well, here, let's open it again, is the size of that box changes based on what you have open. Okay, and so this is much easier to see, and even though I add these things, there's still plenty of room here for this to be bigger. So it doesn't have to shrink down so small. But, you know, I guess that's kind of a minor thing. And then here's, by the way, this is where you have your templates, and these are the ones, the pre-designed ones. And some of these are pretty nice, so you have that option if you want to use those. You'll notice there's no going back here, which was one of the things that I mentioned before, that there was no going back, so you just have to open it again. All right, so I guess I can put an image in. Let's see if there's a logo. Nope. Okay, so image, again, you can click on it, and that's nice that it goes right to it. When you see this little Z, then you can use the dynamic data. So I'm going to set that as site logo. Nothing showing there. So let's save this. And let's go to the customizer, and let's add a site logo there. It can probably be here, logo. So let's select our logo. We'll use this one. Skip cropping. And let's make it a little smaller, say 100 pixels, and then I just want to have the logo. So let's publish that. Okay, let's go back and edit. So I guess I could have just used an image here. I chose to use site logo because I was thinking it might get like an alt tag and other things. Let's add the URL to the site on it. Let's see if they have that. Homepage link. Okay. Now let's go here, click there, and let's add a, we don't want these. See, we don't have a plus sign now in this column. So I'll go here. So I guess we don't actually put a heading in the title area. So I'll search for text, and we'll click here, and we'll go and we'll see if we find site title. And then for the style, we'll make it bolder, we'll make it larger, and we'll choose a blue color. Okay. And let's see now. So this is in that column. So that's good. So I'm going to click this column. Now we want to put these side by side. So I think I go flex horizontal, and that was good. Bingo. Nice. Okay. And so on this one, I'm going to go here, and on the wrapper, I'm going to give a little bit of padding there, so there's some space. There's our site title. Now let's go add our menu. Okay, All right, now we want this to go this side. Let's try that. Is that going to make it? Yep, good. Let's go on the column level, and that's good. Okay, now let's go to styling. Whoops, let's go to the menu and go to styling, and let's go to typography. Let's go to font size and font color. Get her a blue again. So there's this. Let's give this section a background color. Now you've got, some of these have wrapper inner content, so that's an extra div there, I guess. But let's see, background color, we'll just do something like light gray. Okay, so there's our header. Let's save it. And now let's go back to the dashboard. Let's close out of that. Okay, here we go. There's our header. Okay, looks pretty good. Set this again, and let's just check it on mobile, the different screen sizes. So I think we want to make the items smaller here. Doesn't show the kind of cascade what we had before, but let's try 18 maybe. No, let's go bigger, 20. And then let's make this smaller also. Let's try 75. And then we've got our menu. It's collapsed here. So, see, it doesn't show what's already there, so I just kind of made a change when I don't think I needed to. But anyway, here it would be nice if it gave you the sizes. You know, we have these sizes here, so it's 991. That's what it's collapsed at. So I guess I want to make it 767 because we have kind of a small menu there anyway. And then on the typography, we can make the font size smaller. All right, now let's go down to tablet. Okay, I guess that we want to have that same blue. So let's go here. Submenu indicator. Yep, that's fine. Mobile menu. So I don't see something here to change the hamburger color, the icon color. I could just be overlooking it though, perhaps. First level, submenu, mobile menu trigger. That's probably what it is. Typography, color. I should point out there is a global color setting I could be using here, but that's okay. Now let's go to mobile, and it's wrapped around this way, which we don't want. So I'm going to go to the column, and let's set this for 6. I think so. We make it 2 columns. Okay, and then horizontal. Shouldn't that, whoops. Yeah, let's go to, not this column. Let's go to this column and make it 6. And this column and make it 6. There we go. And I guess we could make this a little smaller yet again. So back to desktop. All right, so there's a header. Let's close it out this way. So there's a header. Not too hard. A few little things there, but now let's add the footer. Okay, we'll save. See, it's a default template, so it's going to apply to everything. Let's go in and edit that. Let's do the same thing. Let's add a section, and let's give the section a background color. Okay, and then let's add inside the section an element, and there's a code block, I think, custom code. So we'll use that. So I want to just put a copyright notice in there. I have a little PHP snippet with some HTML in it. Put that in here, do apply. So there's our copyright notice. Let's go to the styling and typography. Let's make that bigger. And let's go to the section. Let's set the height of the section add some padding top and padding bottom. So let's save that and let's go look. And there is our footer. It actually looks like the color, that gray we chose, is pretty close to the background color here. So I don't see too much difference. But anyway, so now let's replace this. We'll go back to the theme builder. Now we want to add something new. Post archive homepage. So we want it on the home page, and we want it on the post archive page. So I'm going to save that. Now we've got a new section here, and so we want to add a body, a component. Okay, we'll save that, and now let's go edit. Okay, we're going to add a section, and let's give the section some top and bottom margin. Okay, and then the way this works is that you set one kind of a top container. See, there's this option here, you use a repeater. The top container as a provider, and then you add another container of some sort and you use that as the consumer, and what you put into the consumer repeats. There's one. Now let's add let's got another section there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now we have a section and a column, and you can see that it's inside of it. Okay, so we're going to mark the section as the repeater provider and the column as the repeater consumer. Okay, and now you see it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because that's how many posts we set to show, so that's looking good. All right, so now let's add featured image. Okay, and we'll make that featured image. Okay, under the image, let's add a heading, and that heading, see, when I added that, it'd be nice if it opened that automatically. Make that post title. Then after the heading, let's add a text item, and we'll make this the excerpt. And then after the excerpt, let's add a button, and we'll make this read more, and we'll give it a link to the post page. All right, let's save this and take a look just so we kind of see how we're doing. I've got another tab open here, so let's go and take a look now. Okay, we've got some space at the top. This is kind of running together, but we should be able to easily add some margin. And if we click this, we go, this is kind of the Cadence default there, so that's okay. So, all right, so now let's add some spacing and let's get our columns. So we're back here, and on the button, I think we want to add some margin to the top and some to the bottom. So all right, so there's our button centered, and now let's go here, and the way we should be able to make 3 columns out of this, I believe, is that it's using a 12 column grid. So if I click on 4, I get 3 columns, so that's nice. Let's put a little spacing at the bottom here. Okay, so we've got our 3 columns. So let's save that and refresh. Okay. These are different sizes because it's a manual excerpt and they have different amount of text in them, so that's not something related to the theme or to Zion. So you're here. Okay, now we need the pagination, at the bottom. So, because we have a lot of posts. So now we need to add pagination. And if we add pagination into the column, then we'll end up getting pagination after every record. So I think what we want to do is add pagination up here. Okay. And that's not in the section that's below it. So I think we want it kind of on the same level as the column. Okay. So there's our pagination. And let's go to our wrapper. There we go. All right, back to pagination, and let's see if we can set a typography size here, even bigger maybe. All right, so let's save that now, and go look at that on the front page. Looks like I need more space between them, but let's go ahead and, so I went to the next page. But this is still showing we're on page 1. Should have previous here, and this should be not a link. These are links. This should not be a link, and that should be. So there's something with the pagination going on there. Let's go to our pagination and page number styling. We'll even make it more. And I don't think there's really any place else we can put this pagination. So, you know, as I said, if we put it in to there, then we get pagination for each item, and so we don't want that. Let's try saving it again. Refresh. Okay, so it's still not showing correctly here. Just to kind of bring this down, click this one. It's page 5. But the numbers here aren't, but that's not being reflected in the numbers down here. Okay, so I think I've done in the pagination correctly and that this is a bug. Now, there's one more thing I want to look at before we kind of zoom out and try to answer some general questions about Zion Builder. And that is that they added some advanced conditional display options in the version 3 release. So I just want to see what those are. And let's add, let's see, here's the heading. After the heading, let's add a text element. Inside of this text element, let's put in the category terms. All right, so that added the category there. We can put a little margin at the bottom there. All right, so if we look here under advanced, here are the visibility options. You can show it to all. You can show it to logged in users or logged out users. So this might be helpful for a membership site, say. But then there's this advanced conditions, and this is new. So you can set some advanced conditions whether this should show. And I just want to see what these options are now. So you can set them based on the post. So it'd be an individual post, on the post type, post parent, post title, excerpt, status, featured image. So probably if there isn't a featured image or is a featured image. Template, taxonomy term, custom field. So those are all good things. And for the archive, some archive display options based on the author. So if you want to show like an author box or link to the author or something like that. Author capability, that's interesting. User information, again, useful for a membership site. There are a couple of advanced things that I've seen in other implementations that might be nice. One is, if we look up at the post, there's no post date or modified date. So that's something, or even today's date, if you want to show some elements, some message based on the date, or if it's a weekend or something like that. So that's not possible here. Another one is related to the URL, like if you're doing landing pages and person's coming from, an ad or Facebook or something like that. There's not some PHP level of options. And finally, the other thing I thought of that would be nice to have is the return value from a PHP function. So then you could pretty much code whatever you wanted to using, like a snippets program or a custom plugin, or maybe even the code element. But anyway, that gives you kind of the ultimate flexibility. What they have is pretty good, and the things I'm mentioning are pretty advanced. So I think for first implementation, this is good. All right, so we've looked at the builder now in its 3.0 implementation at the user interface. Now I want to zoom out and discuss some of the higher level questions that I've had and I've seen people ask in online forums. And there are three of those. And one is, did the version 3 update kind of solve the user interface issues? 2, is Zion Builder ready to be used for building sites? And 3, what does the future of Zion Builder look like? Now, obviously, the answer to these questions are going to be kind of my opinion based on what I've seen right now. And you may have other needs and other uses and other ideas. So I wanted to go out on a limb and address some of these questions. I wanted to offer something so that when you're trying to answer these questions, maybe there's some perspective or some things that'll help you in doing that evaluation process for yourself. So first off, did version 3 solve the user interface issues? Well, there was good progress. For example, on the plus side, in the previous version, there were a confusing number of rounds plus circle buttons so that the user didn't know where to click to add an element. That's been fixed. Also, in the previous version, there was not a good coordination between the structure panel, the editor panel, and the options panel. And that required extra clicks then to navigate around. This has mostly been addressed. Clicking on an element in the structure panel goes to it in the editor, and the option panel opens for that element. And that's the main thing. I did notice that when you add a new element, the options don't always open, and it isn't always automatically selected in the structures panel. Maybe that's by design, I'm not sure. Version 3 added advanced conditional display options. There are a few areas where some advanced conditional triggers could be added to bring the list more in line with what's available in Oxygen, but there's a good list to pick from, especially for a first version. However, on the negative side, when viewing the pre-designed templates, there's no way to go back to the elements list. This is a small thing that could be polished. Slightly larger issue is having a list of elements in a pop-up makes it difficult to see what you have to pick from. This gets worse if you have some of the side panels open. As the pop-up scales down more than necessary and the view is smaller, it's hard to read. This isn't a showstopper, but it's a convenience issue. And finally, there are still a few glitches in the builder, like the pagination issue. So my conclusion to the first question is that it looks like many of the major complaints were addressed, but there are still areas for improvement and some glitches. The second question, is the Zion Builder ready yet to use for site building? Well, that obviously depends on your needs and the type of sites that you're trying to build. It seems like the Zion Builder is positioned somewhere between Elementor and Oxygen, so I'll answer this question in relation to those two builders. Site builders will find that both Elementor and Oxygen provide more convenience elements. For example, suppose you want to show a list of posts or custom post type articles. The pre-built Elementor posts and archive widgets makes that task very easy. With Zion Builder, you need to use the repeater function to create your own, though obviously the Zion Builder's repeater is more flexible and powerful than Elementor's pre-built widgets. So in relation to Elementor, it's not as convenient, but it's more powerful. However, both the Oxygen Easy Posts and repeater elements are easier to use and more powerful than the Zion repeater. Oxygen has a much smoother implementation. The Zion Builder has better conditional display options than Elementor, which out of the box, Elementor has almost none. Oxygen, on the other hand, is more extensive, and there is even an API to add your own. Zion doesn't support as many custom field providers as Elementor or Oxygen. So far, it just supports ACF. In terms of front-end output, Zion produces better code than Elementor, but not Oxygen. The Elementor user interface is much smoother than Zion's, and Elementor is easier to pick up. Oxygen has a steeper learning curve than Zion, but the Oxygen UI seems better to me as the many Zion panels and the available elements in the pop-up don't seem as convenient. Obviously, this is a personal preference. The Zion Builder editor is very fast, on par with Elementor, and faster than the version 3.x Oxygen editor. So in conclusion on the second question, I'd say that the Zion Builder would be good to use on a brochure or smaller site, but I personally am not going to use it yet. The third question, how do I feel about the future of the Zion Builder? My answer to this is obviously speculative and a personal assessment. One thing I noticed was that the Zion release prior to version 3 was in the middle of September 2021. So version 3 was almost 6 months in development. That seems like a long time. I kind of understand that there's a lot of pressure on developers to roll out features quickly, and that can be a stressful treadmill. So there's some merit to taking your time, doing it right, and tuning out the call for quick releases. However, the Bricks Builder is also in the space between Elementor and Oxygen, and it's seen a new release about every month or so. So as an end user, the Bricks releases have kept me engaged and interested in its progress, while with Zion, there hasn't been as much news. And this was even more of a case for me and other users on Facebook, because Zion has its own Discord channel where much of the discussion takes place. Bricks also has its own forums, but the Facebook group is active and gets regular updates. On a positive note, there are 2 good add-on collections for the Zion Builder, Zion Extras and Z Ultimate. Both are from solid developers and nicely complement the features in the core and pro version of Zion Builder. The Zion Builder has grown from 500 plus active installs in July of 2021 to 2,000 plus now. 2,000 is a good number. But since Zion requires the free version to be installed when using the pro version, I wonder if adoption is happening at a rate to sustain development. Version 1.0.1 of the free version of Zion was released into the WordPress plugin directory in the middle of August 2020, so adoption seems a bit slow to me. In conclusion, as regards the future of Zion Builder, it appears that it will proceed at a slow and steady pace, and that may result in it being more of a niche product. So that's my second look at the Zion Builder. There's a text summary available on the WebTNG website along with other walkthroughs, reviews, and videos. I hope you found this second look at Zion Builder helpful. Thank you for watching.